Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is KidLod404 and I'm showing you guys some Apex Legends on the Nintendo Switch. No, it's not multiplayer gameplay, it's actually just a tutorial. This commentary is going to talk about Apex Legends and, the reason why I'm kind of disappointed in maybe the community and in the game, it's just something that I was looking forward to playing a lot, like a mainstay on my channel, to try to do something kind of bring more multiplayer content to my channel. Remember the old niche of Call of Duty on the Nintendo Wii? Those are the vibes that I really wanted to bring back on the channel, at least with this game, at least to carry me for this part of the year until we get to play some Pokemon later on. But, there's a lot of problems, and I'll talk about it. And it's actually very sad and disappointing. It's kind of like the nail in the coffin, in my opinion, of competitive, first person multiplayer gameplay games, like Call of Duty, like Apex Legends, that, on the Nintendo Switch. I just don't think that those games are ever going to do well on Nintendo Switch. So let's talk about some of the details. So first of all, I just want to give another shout out to Panic Button. They're an amazing developer, that brings these crazy, AAA, like high graphics games. They ported over to the Nintendo Switch and it just works. It's pretty awesome. They did this already with the Doom games, Doom and then Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein. So they have a big resume already on doing that, and they did a pretty good job bringing over Apex Legends to the Nintendo Switch. It's pretty good. It's kind of blurry though, unfortunately. The frame rate is kind of low. It actually dips below 30 frames, but I kind of have to give them a pass because, Apex Legends is using the Source engine. It's a really ancient engine that's not really optimized, for modern standards, and bringing, that engine to the Switch, I can see how that could present some problems. Nevertheless, they did it, so good job on them. Unfortunately, it's just a huge competitive disadvantage if you want to play on Nintendo Switch. Because if you're playing with crossplay on, which I don't want to do, right, because of that disadvantage, I don't want to go and play against people who are playing on 4K monitors, or they're playing on PC with the fluidity of the mouse and keyboard. It's just unfair, right? You're playing against Xbox and PS5 players where they can see things a lot clearer. They're playing at 60 frames per second. It's just completely unfair when you're playing against those people, when you yourself, or the whole screen is pretty much blurry, and then you're playing sub 30 FPS. There's no way, skill on skill, you're going to be able to beat those players. So I was excited to see that Apex Legends offered to turn off crossplay, so you can play only against Switch players. Now, and this is the saddest part in my opinion. I turned off crossplay, and I was assuming, it was like a Friday night or something. I was assuming that I was going to get into a game really easy. But even on a Friday night, the most open night, it's the weekend, everyone's playing games, everyone's off work and school. Like, even on a Friday night, I couldn't even get a game. Like, the lobby filled up max for me, like about 16 players. You have to have 60 players to start a game, and it only reached up to 16. So it's like, I think the conclusion, and I Googled this, I'm like, what's wrong with my game? I went to Reddit, I went to all sorts of places, and the reason is, and I think it's pretty correct or accurate, it's just that there's not enough players playing this game to actually even start up a single lobby, which is sad. And I'm just talking about it right now, of course, turning crossplay off. I think a lot of players are playing the game, but they don't know about the crossplay option, and they're playing against a lot of other, console players, obviously, and they're probably getting their butt smacked, obviously. They're getting killed because of the unfair advantage. I don't want to do that. And, if you're an amazing player and you can kick butt on Switch, like, kudos to you. I'm just like I'm a retired old grandpa gamer, and I don't really, want to be super competitive like that and try and train hard and practice my aim. I just don't have time for that. I just want to get into a game, right? So, at the same time, I don't want to get kicked around, and I don't want to play with a competitive disadvantage by going against other consoles. So that's kind of a deal breaker for me, unfortunately, guys. Again, I know a lot of you young cats out there, you probably, if you're really good at games, because this generation of gamers, these young gamers, they're amazing. Their gameplay is incredible and insane. I've seen so many great clips from young people out there on YouTube. So I'm just not that person. So it's a deal breaker for me, unfortunately, is what I'm trying to say. But I also think it just kind of speaks to the popularity of like first-person shooters on Nintendo consoles. And I think the writing on the wall has been on the wall. The writing has been on the wall for almost, let's say like 8 years now, and it's hard for me to accept that. I really thought this was going to be like the renaissance, at least semi-renaissance of first-person shooters on Nintendo Switch, and there could actually be like a legit community playing Apex Legends. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not the case. It's just dead on Switch. There's just not even enough players to fill up a lobby of people with crossplay turned off. I mean, that speaks a lot. That says a lot, unfortunately. I think, the resurgence of like a Call of Duty on Nintendo console community ever coming up, I think those days are done. I think those days are gone. And I think those hopes that I've had for that should just be, you should just kind of move on, right? Killout44, you should just move on, because that's never going to happen again. So that's the case. That's why I'm not really showing multiplayer gameplay. I'm just showing the tutorial. Rest in peace, first-person shooter popularity on Nintendo Switch. It's also especially hard when you're playing, you're fighting against other like more, because this is supposed to be like the kiddie console, and I get it, right? Like that's why people like to gravitate towards Fortnite and the building and stuff. They like to gravitate towards Splatoon. It's even hard to because Nintendo already has their own shooter, quote unquote shooter game like Splatoon. It's hard to compete against that because people would rather just play Splatoon than this game. I personally just don't like Splatoon because it's not a pure shooter. It's third person. There's the turf war and the paint and all that. I know it's competitive, but I just can't get into it. I just don't like it. And I also it's hard for me to use the gyro controls. They're kind of annoying to me. I'm a traditionalist like that. Sorry. So it's just not my cup of tea, Splatoon. So yeah, like I said, rest in peace. I might try Splatoon 3 if there's a demo, but I think mostly this year what I'm going to be focusing on is just waiting for Pokemon, those types of games to come out. You buy Nintendo Switch, and I just have to just accept it. You really, these developers have done a really good job bringing their third-party games to Switch, but we all know this, right? You buy a Nintendo console to play Nintendo games, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, and then the extra stuff that they usually sprinkle in. Well, Splatoon should be in there now, but then the extra stuff that if they want to make a Star Fox game, if they want to make a Metroid game, if they want to make a Pikmin game, if they want to make an Animal Crossing game, that's the story for Nintendo, and I think it's going to be like that forever and for always. So I'm pretty sad. RIP first-person shooter community on Nintendo Switch. That's the end of the commentary. My name is Killout44, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.